Hi, my name is Carlos Santiago, and today's readings can be found in Acts 28 and Ephesians 1 and 2. And there's a lot of good content in here. We could probably take a couple of months to go over these verses, so I encourage you to read them thoroughly if you haven't already. But today, I want to focus primarily on Ephesians 1. But before I do that, I want to show you something. A few years ago, I went to a men's retreat in New Hampshire at a place called Pilgrim Pines. It was a really great place. And at this retreat, we spoke about how Satan holds us back with lies and how he can mess with our sense of worth and value. And if he can do that, he can usually stop us from moving forward in life. And one of the activities was for us to take a headband and write on it all of the words that hold us back. So here's mine, and it's filled with lots of words like unwanted, failure, poser, liar. And for a time, we walked around with these words plastered on our head, just like this. And it was something to see, because no matter how hard we tried to project a different image, with the headband on, it really didn't work. And that's how it is in our lives sometimes. You know, we try and we try and we try, but at the end of the day, it's like we have all of these words plastered across our head. And eventually we just stop trying. I'll get back to this in a minute. So in Ephesians, Paul is in prison. And I don't know about you, but if I were in that position, I might very well be tempted to feel like a failure. I might be tempted to quit. But Paul doesn't do that. He can't visit other people himself, so instead he writes a couple of letters to the church in Ephesus. So here he's not writing to unbelievers. He's writing to people who have already committed their lives to Christ, largely a non-Jewish group of Christ followers, similar to the demographic that you might find in our churches today. And listen to what he tells them. For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. In love, he predestined us for adoption to sonship through Jesus Christ, in accordance with his pleasure and will. So get this, from a prison cell, he says that before the creation of the world, however many billions of years ago, before anything, before we lived, before we sinned, he chose us to be holy and blameless in his sight. He predestined us for adoption. Adoption. Now it's one thing to be a son. You know, as a son, you get certain rights and privileges, especially if you're the son of a king. But we're not sons by birth. A son by birth, you might not actually want that son, but there's not much you can do. You have them, they're your son. But a son by adoption? Look at this. You look at the person who you're going to adopt, don't you? You see who they are. You check out their background. You look at their flaws and their strengths, and you decide yes or no. And if you say yes, then you're accepting that child as is. And of course, you have hopes and dreams for the child. You don't leave them as is. You invest in them, you teach them, you guide them, you discipline them, you love them, but you choose them just as they are. And that's what this is saying, that as Christians, we have been chosen by God. He wanted us before the creation of the world. When he was forming galaxies and nebula and all of that, he was thinking about you. He was thinking about me. We are wanted. And as I started to come to grasp with that truth, these words started to lose their power over me. I might have felt unwanted because of the things that people had done to me in the past, but the reality was that God wanted me. God chose me. I may have had failures, I may have had sin, but he chose me to be holy and blameless in his sight. And not only that, it also says in Ephesians 2:10 that we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. That means that despite all of this, despite all of my failures, He chose me to do a specific work. He prepared it in advance for me. And if He believes in me, then I can believe in me. I can move forward. I can move forward with confidence. And verse 19 says, the same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in me. That means that I can be confident that whatever His will is, whatever He's predestined for me to do, it will be accomplished, even if the work seems hopeless, whatever it is. So if there's a relationship that you think is dead and buried, well, Christ was dead and buried, and the same power that raised Him is at work in you. And that means everything. That means that marriage of yours, it can be raised from the dead by the power of Jesus, no matter how far gone it may look. That means that job situation, that disease, that whatever. In Ephesians 1:20 it says, Christ is seated at the right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name in the present age and in the age to come. That means He has authority over everything. All of it. So be confident in what He's calling you to do. Be confident. And if you're watching this and you don't yet consider yourself a follower of Christ, know this. It's no mistake that you're watching this right now. Even this moment was ordained before the world was formed to call you. And once you accept Him, the same power that raised Christ from the dead will live in you too. No matter how much you've sinned in the past, it doesn't matter. He knew it. He knew it all of this, before the world was formed. And He's calling you anyway. So let Him. Let Him. And if you need help, give us a call. We'd love to pray with you. Until next time.